Big Sur, California. It's one of those places you go to and everywhere you look is just the coolest place you've ever seen. And as a photographer, that is just a dream. And you get way too many photos. And we're gonna edit some of those photos. I got Lightroom open right here, so let's just dive right into it. So I picked 6 photos out from Big Sur here. These are just some along the coast. This is McWay Falls. This is also McWay Falls, just this little area in here. We got the iconic Big Sur Bridge, and then a little sunset photo of a path leading down to an ocean overlook. So this was a nice little patch of grass where there was just a herd of cows just chilling. First things first, what we're gonna do is just straighten out the horizon here. We can also turn grids on here in this crop overlay, and you get more defined lines so you can kind of see where that horizon is a little bit better. And make sure that you are perfectly straight. Right there looks good. I'm gonna do a little bit more cropping. I don't want half of this cow, so I can either drag it over or the other way. And I think I'd rather have the cow more than the emptiness over here. And I think I'm actually gonna drag this in closer to here as well. I like having a little bit of this foreground just for some dimension. So we'll leave that just like so, and I think that looks real nice. Next, what I like to do is I like to come down into the effects, and it was really hazy, so I'm just gonna crank the dehaze a little bit, and you'll see that really adds in some contrast without having to pump the contrast, and then I can play with the contrast a little bit better later. But you'll see that I have these dust spots when I crank that dehaze. So just pressing H, I go to the healing brush, and I can just click those away, just like so. Now I'm gonna start playing with the light settings. And basically I like to just move things back and forth to a spot that feels good. Like that right there feels nice. Highlights, if I want to really dull down that horizon, I would pull that down. If I want to accentuate kind of the light there, I'm going to pull it up. And I think I want to do that, and I'm going to later add in some little bit of an orange hue over here, which will kind of accentuate like the sunlight. It'll feel really nice. Shadows, I'm just going to lift them a little bit. Blacks, I'm actually going to pull down just a little bit. Right there. And the whites a little bit up. And that is looking good. So we went from there to there. And then saturation already looks quite good, so I'm not going to do a whole lot. Something I like to do every now and then is pull the vibrance down and then the saturation up. And sometimes that can like clean up the colors a little bit, or vice versa, kind of pull the saturation down and then crank the vibrance. You can kind of see the difference. I think actually for this one, I'm liking pulling the saturation down and the vibrance up. I think it's giving a little bit more color contrast. That was too far with the saturation, so I'm just gonna bring that back a hair. Right around there. That is looking good. So, color on and off and on. Nice. Moving on to the color mixer. I'm liking the colors already. They're looking good. But we can make them contrast a little bit more. One thing I really like to do is with the blues, pull that hue down a little bit more towards kind of a teal. Just a bit. Let's desaturate it just a bit so it's not so crazy. And then luminance, sometimes I like to pull it up, sometimes I like to pull it down. I think in this case, I think I want to pull it down. So here we're sitting. Let me toggle that on and off. Gives it a really cool look, almost filmic. And for greens, A lot of these, you can either pump more towards orange or more towards like a really rich forest green, which would be this direction. But I think it'll go better with the blues if I pull it more towards the yellow-orange side. Something around here. But a lot of this is going to change in the yellows. So here we go to the yellows, and there you see that that's where it changes mostly. So if you wanted really green grass, you actually go to the yellow and pull it to the right. Well, that's not exactly what I want here. So I am going to pull it a little bit to the left, more towards that orange, like I said before. Maybe, yeah, I might put just a little bit of saturation in there and brighten it up. Just because this is the attention, the area of attention. Oranges, this is more towards green, this is more towards red. I don't like to change it a lot, if anything, a little bit towards red. Maybe desaturate it just a touch. Reds, sometimes I like to desaturate the reds completely, along with the purples and the magenta, or whatever you call these two things. Cool, that's good for color mixer. Now I'm going to go into the color grade. And for the highlights, I think I want to pull the highlights a little bit towards the orange. Let's see what that feels like. There's a magic number here, 39. And then if you hold shift, you get the saturation line. So if you hold shift and drag, it just saturates right on that hue. So we have this really blue glow in the highlights. And if we pull that 39 orange hue up just a bit, we can kind of ease that blueness. Kind of creates more of a sunny look overall. And we could tame that in the shadows by pulling the shadows kind of the other direction. I'm not sure I really want to do that. Maybe just a hair. So here you go. Before and after. Really nice look. And now we get into the effects tab. I'm going to pull the clarity up a little bit and just give it some nice punch. You got to be careful with it though, because it can start looking really cheesy really fast. So for example, if you pulled clarity way up, you're going to get something that looks ridiculous. But just giving it a little bit is nice. Just gives it a little bit more sharpness, or the effect of sharpness. So for a before and after, up until now, we have raw photo and current edit. Looking quite good. It was really windy this day, so my camera's stabilization was working hard. But it did a pretty good job. It's looking nice. This is all handheld. I didn't pull the tripod out for this. I like to shoot handheld. It's just nice, you know. I'll pull the tripod out every once in a while, but I like to run and gun. I might put a little bit of sharpening in here. I'm gonna open up the sharpening tab. Whoops. Detail. Sharpening, there's this little drop down. Sometimes I like to pull it up to 70, 75, and then hold Alt or Option if you're on Mac, and drag the masking up until you get the edges you want. So yeah, I'm actually going to pull it all the way up. Now you can kind of see where the sharpening is working. So if I turn it off and on, before it was sharpening everything, Now it's only going to be sharpening those smaller edges, and I'm actually going to pull that a little bit down because I want some of this to sharpen as well. But a lot of this can just look like noise with sharpening, so I'm just going to, you know, take it out a little bit. And now it's looking really good. Now here's where the magic happens, okay? This little tab right here, masking. Boom. I want to try it on my own. I don't need to take a tour. No, stop, I got it. Okay, so this is the area that I really want to call to attention, right? So here's what I'm gonna do. First and foremost, I'm gonna add a radial mask, and I'm just gonna pull that whole area like so. This is the area that I want to be the center focus. Boom. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to invert it. Boom. So now we're affecting only the opposite, but I'm going to subtract the brightest parts because I don't want it to really darken the sky. You feel me? So now it's gonna, well, I kind of revealed what I was gonna do, but I am going to darken the rest of the image except for this area of focus, which are the cows. But I'm not going to darken the sky because that might start looking unnatural. So doing that, I'm just gonna take the exposure just down a little bit. Maybe pull the shadows up, but pull the whites down. Blacks down a little bit. And now, if we before and after, it's looking good, isn't it? Really nice. And you can do pretty much as many masks as you want. So I might do another one here. Okay, next I want to kind of make this even sunnier, you know? So I'm going to create a new mask. And I'm going to go a radial gradient. I'm going to pull just a big giant section over here, right? Maybe out all the way over here. What I'm going to do is subtract a luminance range to where it's only really affecting these highlights. And it's going to have some nice fall off. This is the feather right here. So all the way from the brightest to around this middle 65% luminance, 65 to 70-ish. So it's going to fall off into the water here and along the sky. So it's not going to be rough at all. Now I'm going to go to the color. I'm just going to pull it. Nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the temperature. I'm going to warm it up. Look at that. Look at what you can do here. That's crazy. I would never do that. But just a little bit. Man, that's nice. I pull it down just a little bit so it's not like burning, you know, so the sun's not touching the horizon. But you get a really nice glow here, and it kind of seeps into the water, but it doesn't drown it. Yeah, that's really cool. Another thing you can do is colorize. So you get all of the visible hues, and you can just play around with it. What if you wanted a green sky? You could do that. Boom. Purple sky. Boom. But I want an orange sky. Not that orange though. So I'm gonna pull it down. This is a saturation. Up for saturation, down for, well, up and down for saturation. Up more saturation, blah, 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 blah. So there you go. That is how you do that. So now we have this really nice sunny effect here. Turn it on and off. Boom. Is that too crazy? I'm gonna pull the whites down a little bit. Pull the saturation down here too. And just pull it back. You can also, this is kind of like a opacity slider if you're familiar with Photoshop Premiere. If you're familiar with Photoshop Premiere and the likes, this is just normal opacity. You want to double it, boom. You want to bring it back, boom. That's no effect at all. So I'm just gonna add a little bit, 50%, something like that. That looks good. So look at all we've done so far. I'm gonna make a new mask, one last one, linear gradient, and I'm just gonna darken this foreground a little bit because it does need to be the focus, just like so. Boom. And now here's our before and here's our after. What a beautiful photo. This is a magical scene in real life, so pulling it out and editing is one of my favorite things to do, and I think that worked really well. One thing I am noticing here, it almost feels like there's a little bit of smudging going on. You see that right there? Maybe it's hard to tell in the video, but I see it. And what we can do to mitigate that is we can just pull a brush in and paint over that area. And you can pull the contrast down and come to the effects and reduce the clarity, reduce the texture, and maybe introduce some haze. And now it should be gone. And there you have it. I'm gonna pull a little bit of clarity and a little bit of texture back. Just reduce it just a little bit. There you go. Now that looks a little bit more even and normal. And I think that's gonna do it for photo number 1. Let's move on. Now this is just looking back along the coast. Look at that. That is outrageous. And of course, my camera had about 1 billion dust spots on it. So let's go ahead and clean those up. Fix those up really quick. Some of these might be a little bit tricky, but we'll see if we can just quickly click through them. And I see some up here, but I'm not gonna worry about that because I have another trick. Now that's looking a lot better. There's one more right here. Boom. Okay. Now we are largely dust free. Now I'm gonna go into my cropping. I definitely want to get rid of this pole, so I'm gonna do so. I'm gonna get rid of that little bit of wire as well. You could go and paint that out, but why? We'll leave the bottom of this here. And then it's really hard to tell where the horizon is and if the horizon is straight on a photo like this because it just blends in so, like the sky and the ocean just blend together in a wall of mist. So I'm just gonna leave it. I think it looks nice anyway. So moving on to the actual edit. If we pull, mark my words, I'm a dummy. If we pull that highlight down, you can see the horizon line. And we need about that much rotation. That looks pretty good right there. Look at all these dust spots. It was so windy that just so much was just blowing into my camera. Like, oh my lord. Oh my lord. I have a solution. Stay tuned. Shadows. We're going to pull them up. We're going to pull the whites up. And then we're going to pull the blacks down. Look what that does. It's a really nice way of adding contrast. Just pull the blacks down. Might pump some actual contrast from the contrast slider in there too. I don't like to mess with that as much because you don't have as much control, but... And so on the last photo I started with dehaze, but on this one it's arguably even hazier, but I like it, so I'm going to leave it. White balance looks good. Saturation, we can try the trick where we pump saturation and reduce the vibrance again. There's my cat. Or vice versa. I definitely like lower vibrance, higher saturation. There we go. Yeah, something like that's really nice. I think it'd be really cool if we like really accentuate the yellows and then everything else is pretty desat. And we can do that here in the color mixer. We just go to all the other hues, pull them down. I'm gonna pull the greens down as well. For the blues though, I'm gonna hue shift slightly. That's the ocean I'm affecting right here. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it this direction and then pull the luminance down and then desat. Blues can come up. And then magenta, purple, magenta, those two can come down. And now we're gonna go to the yellows and play with this. I like to pull the yellows towards orange personally and then really pump them. We're gonna really pump them in this one because we desaturated so much else. And just pull up the luminance. Am I liking that? Am I liking that? I'm gonna take the luminance a little bit down, the saturation a little bit down. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Color grading. We can go to the highlights. This is looking a little bit sad and blue. So I'm gonna go to that magical number 39 again. You can also click it and I think, maybe not. We just drag it there and then look at what it does. Like that's too much for sure. But just a hint, maybe. Just a hint. It's kind of a really cool glow. And before this kills me, I'm gonna go into the masking and mask the sky here. And it's gonna detect it. It does a pretty good job. And did you get the results you were expecting? Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna take a brush. So I'm gonna subtract using a brush. I'm gonna put the flow on 100. I'm gonna subtract like the edges here. And don't worry that it's overlapping a little bit, that's fine. I just for sure don't want to affect these mountains. I'm going to subtract all that out. Like so. And I am going to absolutely kill the clarity, absolutely kill the texture, and haze it up a little bit. And look at that. We are good to go. You can also go into the detail and just kill the sharpness. And so now if we go back to this mask and turn it on and off, look at that, fixed in one go, in one fell swoop. Now we can proceed. So looking at this, I'm not sure I love the desaturation here. So I'm gonna go back into these greens and pull them back. I'm gonna pull the saturation back from the yellows a little bit because otherwise it's gonna be just nonsense. I'm gonna take all these saturations back to a kind of normal level, and that did absolutely nothing. So what I can do, this is about mid-tone range. I can pull, that looks great, doesn't it? Jokes. If I just do a hair of saturation and then pull it down into like this blue region, maybe like deep, deep blue like that, it's gonna kind of create some contrast from this area, which is nice. This is all interesting and it kind of wants your eye, but this is a big cluttered mess that takes it, and then you have the road. So I think I'm just gonna crop in some more. Don't be afraid to crop if you're shooting raw. Let me just delete the road and leave only a little bit of this here. Leave that in the corner. See? Now I'm liking that so much better. Yeah. Yeah, that feels a lot better. And I'm gonna actually just take that little branch away because I don't like it. It's ugly. It's a stupid branch. And now this is looking better. I'm gonna actually go ahead and crank dehaze. I know I said I liked the haze, but now that this is kind of more in focus of the photo, I want more of it. Also, instead of adding clarity to the whole photo, it's a good idea to add clarity only in sections that you want to really shine, so to speak. For example, I want this region to shine, but I don't want to add clarity to this little bit of flower. So what I can do is subtract a color range and then just subtract the yellows. And now it's not going to grab that flower. And I can also subtract a... no, I'll just leave it at that. And now when I crank clarity, you see what it's doing. It's kind of dehazing itself. And I can dehaze it more if I wanted, but I'm gonna leave that kind of where it was. And maybe pump just a little bit of saturation. I want it to be more on the green side, so I'm just gonna shift it. Look at what that's doing. That's crazy. Yeah, that's nice. So now it really looks like a grassy kind of little offshoot. So we have before and after. And that's feeling nice. Now let's go in the global. I think this is feeling a little bit too kind of blue. So I'm just gonna pull it to the opposite side until I get something that's feeling a little bit more normal. Like there. That's nice. And now that I'm looking at it, I don't love this little highlight glow. Pull a radial mask into this area. And just pretend it's the sun. I'm gonna warm it up. Maybe adjust the shape a little bit. Bring it all the way across. Change the shape. Pull it down. Make the feather greater. Pull it back. Desaturate it, maybe? No, saturate it. And now I'm gonna pull the highlights down and the whites down. Now it's giving a really cool look. And just like the last photo, in the corner here, I'm gonna decrease the exposure. It's okay to leave these flowers lightened because that's part of the scene. But that's feeling nice. So let's take a pause here and just take a look at what we've done. Before to after, before to after, before to after. I'm just letting my eye walk me around. I'm just letting my eye walk me around the photo to see what exactly I'm not vibing with. And I think this area over here is messing with me. So I'm gonna add a radial gradient. Right in there. And I'm gonna pull it down. And I'm gonna de-clarity it. De-texture it. And maybe haze it up a little bit. And now it's just softer. It's not screaming for attention so much. There's so many colors going on in the water. And to be fair, in that water on the ocean, there were little sections of green. But I don't think that this orange glow is working for me. So I'm going to go into this mask and I'm going to subtract a luminance range. Feather it off, of course. Something like that. Yeah, and it's not affecting this, keep in mind, so don't worry about that noise. So now we're just giving that orange glow to the sky, and I don't love the orange that it's giving, so I'm going to select the colorize so that I can select exactly what I want. So if you hold shift, you have the saturation slider. So if I go around 50% and then I hold command or control on PC, you have the hue slider. So you can get it exactly where you want. So if I wanted a blue sky, I'd go somewhere around there. I think I do want it around the orange zone. I'm gonna go somewhere around here. Maybe pull the saturation just above. It's not doing much, but a little bit goes a long way. I can also pull the color using the hue slider. I'm gonna use the fine adjustment so that I'm not pulling it so hard. Something like that, maybe. Maybe. Maybe I'll go back into this tab and start playing with the colors. Like the greens. The yellows maybe a little bit more towards orange. No, right there. Luminance up does feel good. Orange. Sometimes I like to just really, you know, throw the hue slider just so I can see what I'm changing. And it's really just like areas right here on the edge and in here. And I think pulling them a little bit more towards this red is nice, just to create some separation. Let me brighten them up just a little bit. You just notice we have this little kind of purple flower here. Let's give it some love. And a little purple flower. What could be nice is if I come create a little brush around this ridge here. Now I only want to select the brightest parts of it. So I'm going to subtract luminance range and subtract the dark parts. There we go. So now I'm only selecting like the brighter parts of this ridge. I'm just gonna pull them up, you know, just a little bit, just a little bit, just to call it out, you know. I'm gonna do, this is just an exposure thing, so I'm gonna add into these little sections. I'm not going to get extremely technical with it. Maybe in here too. This is essentially dodging or burning or whatever. I think burning. And now on and off. That's nice. Is that too much? Might be too much. I'm gonna come to this brush. And just pull it down a little bit. Now we're only bringing it out a hair, a smidge. I'm actually crank a little bit of saturation in that brush too. Maybe some green. Yep, that feels good. And now, before and after. Number 3, all right. First things first, as always, let's just straighten it up. Whoa, what happened there? All right, that's good right there. I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm just gonna crop it up, get rid of this, crop it in, and get rid of some of this over here, crop it in. Yeah, that's nice. And now I go to my healing brush and I get rid of these dust spots. These dang dust spots, man. Oops. There's just like a little bit everywhere, you know? Look at the variance in color in the water. I haven't done anything to the color yet in the, like in editing. That's just how it was. Like, I don't know what is going on here, but that's crazy. And then this is blue, and then this is like turquoise, and there's more of that darkness. So I guess those are just rocks. I'm so dumb. Those are just rocks. This little waterfall is so neat. It feeds directly into the ocean here. It's called McWay Falls. There's a little hike that goes to it on this ridge that you walk around. There is a hike that goes down to the beach, but it was closed the day I went. Real bummer. I would have loved to get down there. But yeah, let's kick this thing off now. So to begin with, I'm just gonna hit auto, see what happens. Boom, brought that up nicely. I'm gonna bring down these shadows a little bit after it did that. Bring down the highlights all the way. I'm gonna fix this with the same technique that we used in the last photo. So I'm not gonna do that quite yet, but I'm gonna bring the black point down just a hair as well. And now that's looking really good. Saturation, I'm gonna bring up, and vibrance, I'm going to bring down. Now it's looking really colorful and nice. And my favorite tool of all, the color mixer. Let's just start playing with it. Let's see what we got. So oranges, it's gonna be kind of this area in the sand. It's looking really natural as is. Yeah, pulling it down is nice. I really like pulling it down towards the reds. I just think that looks so good. Saturate a little bit. I'm looking at the sand mostly. This, I might come back and desaturate with a mask. But this sand is looking scrumptious. I'm going to come here to the water, the aqua. And I like it. I'm going to saturate it. Boom. Maybe even accentuate it. No, I don't want like lake green. That's like lake nasty green. I don't want that. I want like beautiful lagoon, like that. That's what I want. Maybe, yeah, brighten it up too. Gimme. And then as for the blue water in the background here, maybe no, I don't want to pull it purple. That looks dumb. But I don't want it to match that either. So I'm just gonna, I guess I just leave it. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it. Maybe saturate it and pull the luminance down. And that's gonna pull the sky too, which I don't mind because I was gonna darken that anyway. This needs to be healing brushed. That's another dust spot, and I can't get that with what I'm gonna do in the sky. So boom, there's that. I'm just gonna heal that too. I'm not sure if that's a wave or whatever, but it can be healed with the power of Lightroom. Now I'm just gonna jump right into the masking. Let's just go linear. I'm gonna hold shift so that it locks horizontal. Pull it down right onto that horizon. And then I am going to subtract luminance range. I only want, yeah, like the sky here, like right there. So it's not gonna grab any of these edges. Decrease texture, decrease, and haze it up. Boom. I love that fix. So we go from all those dust spots to nothing. And then it did brighten it up, so we can just pull that back down a little bit. Clarity is only really gonna, or not clarity. Contrast is only really gonna change like from left to right here. Like this is where the sun was over here. So the contrast is just in color from left to right, which I kind of like to exaggerate or accentuate or whatever. So did that, boom. But yeah, dust spots effectively gone. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't have clouds, that is such a good solve. So easy. You don't have to click every single one of them. Anyway, next I'm going to create a... Yeah, let's focus right here. I'm going to do a radial. I'm feathered all the way, so I'm just going to unfeather all the way. Come in here. This is the focus. So what I want to do here is clarity it up. You know, give it some punch. Look at that. Beautiful. And then I'm going to duplicate and invert. So it's taking everything else. And then I'm going to subtract the brightest parts. So I'm not going to affect basically what was in the mask before, which was this little radial filter, and I'm not going to affect the brightest parts. So everything else is selected, even part of the water, and I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to lift the shadows because I don't want to lose it. But maybe I pull the whites. Like I just want to take it away a little bit. Take some texture away too. Just barely. Take some clarity away. Because if I add clarity, look at how crazy it starts to look. So if I take it away, you're like, oh, look at this pretty picture. And then boom, you see this. And you're like, holy, that's craziness. So that's really nice. Now, I'm just going to take a radial, come down here, and let's just darken this area just a bit. Let's add a radial and darken this a little bit. Just taking attention away from those couple spots. We're only darkening just a little bit because you don't want it to look crazy, just enough. And now let's see what we've done so far, before and after, before and after. It's a very natural edit, but it's looking so nice. You could put this on your wall for sure. I would put it right there. I would take that TV away and put it right there. Let's move on. Let's keep it rolling. This was a really cool. I brought out my 100 to 400 lens, and I zoomed all the way in right here. This is that shot, and I super fast shutter captured all the little water particles. You know, the particles of water. That's like one atom each. So this isn't going to take a whole lot. I'm just going to go ahead and hit auto, you know. I'm going to reverse exactly what that did. And I'm going to crank the contrast. I'm going to pull the highlights down. Yeah, highlights down. Shadows. The shadows were good, basically right where they were. I'm going to pull the whites up. That's what I want to do. And the blacks can come down. Nice. And now let's just get right into the color mixer. This I want to get more this I want to get away from that lake green and more towards like the beautiful lagoon, which I did by pulling the aqua to the right, giving it some saturation and some luminance. And the blue I want to pull, actually I want all of this to be like that. No I don't. I want the blue to be here because I want to use this one to create some contrast right in this area because that's what it's affecting. So I'm going to pull the luminance down there. And look at that. Some shadows in the water. And I can desaturate it so it doesn't like mess with the yeah, like that will look weird. So desaturate it a little bit. And then it just looks like foam from like this kind of turquoise water, which is nice. So yeah. I can pull the saturation of the rest of this stuff down, except for, yeah, this yellow. I'm going to push it towards red because I want this rock to look tasty, delicious. And then I'm going to also pull the orange towards red because I want this rock to look tasty, delicious. Saturate it. I'm going to pull the luminance down a little bit on here. And yeah, that's looking good. Delectable. Mask, radial, this corner, be gone. Not that much. Right there. Ew. Someone peed in the ocean. Let's get rid of that pee. Just take some saturation out. Just gets rid of the attention there. I'm also going to, when I want to do the same effects in multiple areas, like if I want to do the same effect in this bottom right and then this top left, just add a radial gradient to the same mask. Boom, done. So, look at that. That's nice. Nice little action shot. So we have light brightness going diagonally, which is cool. And then obviously, this is just the star of the show. Beautiful. I think that's good. Let's move on. Number 4. Number 5. We have the Big Sur Bridge. The iconic Big Sur Bridge. That's all it is. Cropping looks good already. Look at that horizon. Maybe just ever so slightly. Oh, I messed it up. No, right there. That's fine. Boom. This is really the focus here, along with like the edge. I don't know that we need this, but we can pull it, you know, there. Maybe we do a real wide frame, something real cool, you know. It's like a anamorphic film if you're into that kind of thing. I shot this, I think, with an ultra wide lens, and like look what the edges do. It's almost like tilt shift, like motion blurry, because that's sharp, you know. Those are those cows from before, by the way. The pullout was up here. I shot this direction. Anyway, that's a different photo. Let's hit auto. Boom. I hate that. Take it off. Highlights down. Shadows down. Whites up. Not a lot, but a bit. And the blacks down just a little bit. Right there. Saturation down, vibrance up. Yeah, that's what this one needs. I find, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm finding that when I pump the saturation, I really don't like what it does to like the yellows. So if I bring vibrance back to 0, I don't like what saturation does to the yellows at all. I think it like uglifies it. I'm making that a word. Like, it uglifies it. But vibrance, not so much. So if I crank the vibrance and I pull the saturation down a bit, it's still doing a little bit, but not killing the colors. Yeah, so that added a little bit of punch, but the yellows are tamed. And we can come, this is like that old kind of concrete industrial yellow orange, which I don't like at all. So I'm actually going to desaturate this time and pull it more towards more towards 0. I'm going to move it from 0 to 0. Then I'm going to go to the greens. The greens apparently don't exist. Just kidding. They're right down here. Let's saturate them. Blue or aqua. It's going to be this little wave situation in here. I want that lagoon water again. Saturate it, boom. And let's take, that's what I love about the blue sky. When you can pull that blue sky towards like this beautiful baby blue color, ugh, that's the best. I'm seeing a ginormous dust spot here. Let's just get rid of that. Gone. And now, if we're gonna lean into like this really filmic look, what I'm gonna do is come down to the effects. And I'm gonna pump the grain. You play with the size now. I want it like small grain. Roughness, yeah, whatever. Now it really looks like I pulled out a Polaroid and just snapped one. Snapped an anamorphic Polaroid. And now let's play with the light. Radials are the best, I'm telling you. Let's bring this area down. Create a new mask. Let's bring the bridge up. Just a bit. I don't want to kill these whites, but I do want them to be bright. Let's create a new mask. Let's bring under the bridge down. Let's create a new mask. Let's make the ocean come down, but only on that side. Let's create a new mask. And let's make these waves crispy. Let's texture and clarity. Boom. Let's add to that. Add a radial gradient. I want to make this bridge crispy too. Right there. Nice. And now I want to do the opposite effect over here. Or maybe I want to crispify that too. Yeah, I do. I want to crispify, clarify, texturize that too. That looks really good. Maybe even saturate that a little bit more. Let's take the sky out of it though. What I wish I could do in Lightroom, which I know you can do in Capture One, is I would desaturate this yellow, orange, or just not include it. Actually, let's do that. I can do it in a different way, but not like I would do it in Capture One. Subtract a color range. That one. Yeah, see, that looks so much better. Now, on and off. Oh, that's looking so good. Let's create a new mask. Radial. Boom. This has already got a little bit of haze on it. Like this section here. I'm going to subtract the sky. So I'm going to subtract color range, blue. And let's haze it up. Haze it up, but take the luminance down. So it kind of balances, you know? Yeah. Yeah. That's looking good. All right. Are we ready? Before and after. Before, after. Before, after. It's like, it really looks like I shot it on a film camera. I've never shot on a film camera, by the way. I just feel like if I did shoot it on a film camera, that's what it would look like. Let's move on to this bad boy. This was one of the favorites. Man, I remember I took a video after this and I was like, I just got one of the best sunset photos I ever took. I just definitely got the best sunset pictures of my life. I mean, how could I not? Like, are you kidding? This is ridiculously gorgeous. First things first. Straighten that horizon. Pull it right there so it looks nice and even. Boom. Clouds rolled in for the sunset too, so we got some nice clouds in the sky. Oh, it's gorgeous. I love it. Let's hit auto, see what happens. Not bad, not bad. I want to take that down, take the shadows down a little bit. Black point down. Whites come down as well. Back to where they were. Contrast, I want to pump it a little bit. Right there. And I am going to immediately I want to pump some clarity into some spots. So here we go. Right in here. Clarity. Look at that. It's just gorgeous. And I want to de-clarity some spots too. De-clarify. De-sharpen. It's nuts. See that right there? Gone. Texture. Let's leave some texture. You can even dehaze it and just like, you know, pull it down. Brush. I want this path right here to be like a strong element. So let's paint on the path. It doesn't have to be perfect because I'll show you what I'm going to do. Subtract, color range, subtract all that out. Subtract, color range, subtract all that out. Subtract, luminance range, subtract all that out. Now look, we've got a pretty clean selection of the path. It does seep a little bit onto the edges over here. Whoops. Control Z that. But that's okay. Let's take the luminance up. Yeah, just lift it a bit. And I'm gonna have to go back over this because that's as far as I want to push these paths. So I'm gonna create a new brush and paint over this again. Subtract luminance range. That didn't seem to work. Just the darks right there. And lift it. Look at that. Nice. So if I turn both of those off, look at those paths. They're just there. But now, they're really part of it. And they want it to be. I asked them myself. So now, this has got to come down. Just this area. Not that much. But a little bit. And now I think the light is looking really nice. So now we can go ahead and come into the color mixer, my favorite tab. Let's start playing. I want that nice light blue sky, saturated and brightened. No, saturated and darkened. Look at how it makes the sky so three-dimensional. Like 2D sky, 3D sky. That's outrageous. Let's park it right there. That's gorgeous. This orange, this is beautiful. I want it a little bit red. Saturate it. It's also gonna change all this, and I'm okay with that because I think that looks nice. Yellows, I can start looking real bad real fast. But actually this time, I want to pull the yellows more on the green side rather than the red side. Give it some saturation and some brightness. And just look at what that does. That's so pretty. And the greens, I don't want that forest green. I want it to kind of blend in with the yellows here. So I'm just gonna do that, but I'm gonna desaturate it a little bit to give it some separation. And then the reds, I'm just gonna desaturate along with the purple, magenta, violet, whatever. Look at it. Just look at it. It's gorgeous. It's pretty. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's Big Sur. That'll do it. That's all the photos from the Big Sur trip. That is not all the photos from the Big Sur trip. I have about 250 more, but that's all we're editing for this YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed. I will be doing more and more of these as the days go by. So stay tuned. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.